The First Lady series is sponsored by Equality and Freedom. Funding for this series is provided by Patreon supporters. If you would like to make a donation, please click the Patreon link in the description below. Abigail Smith was born at the North Parish Congregational Church in Weymouth, Massachusetts Bay, British America, on November 22, 1744. Through her mother, she was a cousin to Dorothy Quincy, wife of John Hancock. Abigail did not receive formal schooling. She was frequently sick as a child, something which may have been a factor preventing her from receiving an education. Abigail Smith first met John Adams when she was 15 years old in 1759. Her mother was appalled that her daughter would marry a country lawyer whose manners still reeked of the farm, but eventually she gave in. The couple married on October 25, 1764. Mr. Smith, Abigail's father, presided over the marriage of John Adams and his daughter. After the reception, the couple mounted a single horse and rode off to their new home, the small cottage and farm John had inherited from his father in Braintree, Massachusetts Bay, British America. The couple welcomed their first child 9 months into their marriage. In 12 years, she gave birth to 6 children. Her child-rearing style included relentless and continual reminders of what the children owed in virtue and the Adams tradition. Abigail was responsible for family and farm when her husband was on long trips. "Alas," she wrote in December 1773, "how many snowbanks divide thee and me." Abigail and John's marriage is well documented through their correspondence and other writings. John Adams moved the family to Boston, Massachusetts Bay, British America in April 1768, renting a clapboard house on Brattle Street. He and Abigail and their children lived there for a year, then moved to Cold Lane. Still later, they moved again to a larger house in Brattle Square in the center of the city. In 1772, Abigail and John returned the family to the farm due to the increasing unstable situation in Boston, and Braintree remained their permanent Massachusetts home. In 1784, she and her daughter Nabby joined her husband and her eldest son, John Quincy, at her husband's diplomatic post in Paris, France. Abigail had dreaded the thought of the long sea voyage, but in fact found the journey interesting. At first she found life in Paris, France difficult. However, as the months passed, she began to enjoy herself. After 1785, she filled the role of wife of the first U.S. minister to the court of St. James. In contrast to Paris, France, Abigail disliked London, England. John Adams was inaugurated as the second president of the United States on March 4, 1797, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States of America. Abigail was not present at her husband's inauguration as she was tending to his dying mother. When John was elected president of the United States, Abigail continued a formal pattern of entertaining. She held a large dinner each week, made frequent public appearances, and provided for entertainment for the city of Philadelphia each 4th of July. She took an active role in politics and policy, unlike the quiet presence of Martha Washington. As John's confidant, Abigail was often well informed on issues facing her husband's administration. Abigail remained a staunch supporter of her husband's political career, supporting his policies such as passing the Alien and Sedition Acts. With the relocation of the national capital to Washington, D.C. in 1800, she became the first First Lady to reside at the Presidential House, as it was known. Adams moved into the Presidential House in November 1800, living there for only the last 4 months of her husband's term. She found the unfinished mansion in Washington, D.C. habitable and the location beautiful, but she complained that, despite the thick woods nearby, she could find no one willing to chop and haul firewood for the first family. After John's defeat in his presidential re-election campaign, the family retired to Quincy, Massachusetts in 1800. Abigail followed her son's political career earnestly. Abigail Adams died on October 28, 1818 of typhoid fever. She's buried beside her husband in a crypt located in the United First Parish Church in Quincy, Massachusetts. She was 73 years old, exactly 2 weeks shy of her 74th birthday. The half-ounce, $10 gold Abigail Adams coin was released on June 19, 2007, and sold out in just hours. She is pictured on the back of the coin writing her most famous letter to John Adams. In February 2009, Coin World reported that some of the 2007 Abigail Adams medals were struck using the reverse from the 2008 Louisa Adams medal, apparently by mistake. These pieces, called mules, were contained within the 2007 First Spouse medal set. The U.S. Mint has not released an estimate of how many mules were made.